about higher education now.
Yeah.
I thought that I would start with the big broad picture of public higher education and kind of funnel down to the community college system and then talk about Columbia State and Williamson County. So first, I do want to bring you greetings from my president, Dr. Janet Smith, who could not be here with you today. She certainly sends her regrets. She's actually attending the Economic Council in Tennessee for Women that's here, and the guest speaker is Lily Ledbetter. So she's on the board, and that's the only reason that she's not with you today. So I'm glad to have an opportunity to address this group. I hope this will be interactive. I know you want to hear about the Complete College Tennessee Act, so I will spend some time on that. And I think I'm just going to skip around for sake of time. So please, please, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. Your first handout gives you an overview of public higher education in Tennessee. And in Tennessee, we actually have two systems of higher education: the University of Tennessee system and the Tennessee Board of Regents system. And I was looking at your website and looked at the University of Georgia system, but I spoke with someone here that's from the technology institutes and understand that that is separate. There's 6 universities, all of the 13 community colleges, and all of what we call our technology centers are under the Tennessee Board of Regents. And it makes that particular system the 6th largest in the nation. The Tennessee Higher Education Commission, I just wanted to point out, is actually this coordinating body that was put in place in '67 to try to help make those 2 boards of public higher education work together and funnel up through the General Assembly for funding. So they're responsible for the statewide master plan for higher education and also for our funding formula. In January of 2010, Tennessee passed the Complete College Tennessee Act. And it is a comprehensive reform agenda that seeks to transform public higher education through changes in academic, fiscal, and administrative policies at the state and institutional level. With the passage of that act, Tennessee became one of the first states to sign on for the Complete College America reform agenda. And I think I heard someone mention Georgia was moving in this direction as well.
There is, at the governor's capacity, the College Georgia initiative, with all the members of the university system and the technical system having completed institution-wide plans to achieve statewide goals. Those institutional plans are targeted to be merged for a unified statewide plan to be released.
Okay, it sounds like you might be doing it, if you don't mind me saying, the right way. We kind of were in this middle of really trying to get to the race to the top funding. So this was a year-long push to align K through 12, and you heard the mayor talk about the reforms that were happening with tenure and K through 12 and outcome-based. At the same time, higher ed was also caught in the, you're going to change, and this is the model we're going to use to change. So we actually did receive $501 million through the Race to the Top grant. So all of these legislative efforts were really kind of leading up to being able to apply for that grant. So although that was, in my mind, a major driving force to push this reform initiative, the purpose behind it is we need Tennesseans to be better educated and trained. And it's, at the same time, we have this diminished fiscal capacity for the state to support public higher education. So I don't know how your budgets work out, but the state around the 90s was still funding about 60% of the cost of higher education, and then tuition would make up the rest. We have reversed that. 60% of higher education is supported by student tuition, and the state is now funding close to 40%. I don't know that we've ever been, I can't remember a time when we're fully funded, but they're supposed to actually fund 40%. So the big change for us is that we've always been an enrollment-based system. On the 14th day, colleges and universities would report basically how many people were sitting in seats in classes. And we are totally, completely shifting away from that model to become a performance-based system. Now, I actually come from business and industry. I understand what we're trying to do. I do have some personal issues with the way we're trying to get it done, because what we're saying is change and change now without really the tools or the resources to help the schools do that. What we are now going to be funded on, and we see the model now, so we can actually see we're kind of transitioning this 3-year period of kind of the hold harmless. This is what you would have had if we were into the Complete College Tennessee Act funding, is to actually look at persistence and graduation, which we're all, that's good, that's right. How are students moving through the process? Are they graduating? Are they getting jobs in the areas in which they enrolled? It's a very complicated formula, and the way I understand it, it's pretty unique, and there's a lot of states looking at it to see if this could be a best practice model. So since it's not fully implemented yet, I can't share with you. I can tell you it is completely changing the conversations on our campuses and institutions, which is a good thing. It makes a lot of us very nervous, but that's okay. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do is the right thing. We've just got to get through this process. Another significant change with the Complete College Tennessee Act was the establishment of a community college system. I've been in community colleges for over 12 years. We thought we had a system, to be quite honest. We thought we worked together pretty well. But this particular act is asking us to be more strategic and more comprehensive in how we work together. Now, I wanted to give you kind of a look at the community college system. I don't have enough for everybody, so if you could kind of share among your tables. And I apologize for that. And I'll kind of hold this up for those that don't have it. The community colleges, there are 13 of us, and we are divided by what we call service areas, or specific counties that we represent. Columbia State represents southern Middle Tennessee, and we have 9 counties in our service area. And these counties serve as basically boundary lines. So Williamson County is in my service area. And it's interesting because we have the richest, the highest educational attainment level here in Williamson County than any other county in Tennessee, can compete across the nation. And I have several of the poorest counties with the lowest educational attainment level. So it gets to be very interesting. But what I wanted to point out in going back to the Complete College Act is this kind of serves as a boundary there. Line in the sand, do not cross. And what's interesting to me is right now we kind of keep talking about IT and keep talking about workforce needs. If there was a program that Williamson County really needed that Columbia State didn't have, right now we're going to say, wait, we'll develop it. Give us a year or two, because we've got to get through curriculum, and we've got to get through the board, and we've got to get through all these levels, instead of just going, National State has it, let's bring it over. Because now we're competing for dollars, and we're competing for students. And we've got to find a way, because I think the goal of the Complete College Tennessee Act is to eliminate that and find a way for us to say, they have it, bring it over, you've got it. Because industry, and I know this, they get tired of talking to us, because that's all we do is talk. You know, they're ready to see some action. They're ready to say, I have a need now, how can you solve it? And we've got to get better about that, and I admit that. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about some of the big broad things that the Complete College Tennessee Act is doing, and that was the development of that system. Interesting enough, our first vice chancellor for the Office of Community Colleges comes from Darton, Georgia. He was president of Volunteer State Community College where I used to work, Dr. Warren Nichols, and he was selected as the first vice chancellor. So with a little Georgia connection, I wanted to throw in there. His office is focusing right now on 4 major things: academic, curriculum, and program standards. And basically that means that my EMT program should look like Ball State's EMT program, and should look like Northeast EMT program. You would think that was real simple to have that done. You know educators, but they've got to have this class, and this class has, and it's just something they're going to work through. Another thing that sends my colleagues into a tizzy is that we are working on a business process model. Oh, a business term. Why do we need that in education? And it's about the experience a student has. You want to come to my school, and you don't care that it's Columbia State, and you really don't care that I have 9 counties as a service area. All you care about is you have nursing, and I want to be in that program. And so how can we create this seamless transition, no matter what school they choose, out of those 13 community colleges, so that it is easy for them to apply, to get in, and to register. And that is something that we think will help even with our persistence in graduation. To me, I always talk to them about it's a matter of how many times I have to touch a student before they can actually get enrolled. We've got to shorten that. Oh, we still need this paper. Oh, you didn't sign that paper. And if any of you have experienced this with either yourselves or your children or people that you know, we've made it very cumbersome. A lot of the universities have been able to streamline their processes, and in some ways we really need to model after them. Policy and guideline standards, and that again is to create the system, approval and oversight standards. So that's a little bit about the Complete College Tennessee Act, and I'd be happy to answer any other particular questions you may have. Community colleges in the workforce. I'm not sure how it's structured in Georgia, so I just want to take time to explain that all 13 are comprehensive community colleges. So there is probably the majority of our students are in what we call general transfer or university study programs. They're going to get an Associate of Science or an Associate of Arts and transfer as a junior to the universities. One of the great things that has come out of the Complete College Tennessee Act is it made the UT system and the 6 universities in the Tennessee Board of Regents sit down with the community colleges and agree on transfer. That's probably one of the most significant things that I think has come quickly from this act. Because what would happen is you would come to me at a community college, I want to be a teacher. And I go, well, what university do you want to transfer to? Well, I'm not sure. And I go, well, I don't want to talk to you until you know. Because if you go to Tennessee Tech, you're going to need these courses. And if you go to TSU, you're going to need these courses. And they weren't the same. And so a lot of the community colleges were getting hit, and the legislators were constantly talking about issues with transfer. Well, they take our courses, but they make them take a different speech, or a different history, or a different math. And so now we are really aligned. And because it's become such a good thing for students, private schools are also becoming a part of this Tennessee transfer pathway. So they mentioned Lipscomb and Belmont. We are very good partners with them. Cumberland University. There are many private schools. There's a whole website that parents and students can go on and say, I know I eventually want to go to Tech, but I want to start at a community college, and I want to take this program, and it lays it completely out for them, which is good. So besides the general transfer going on to the university, the community colleges also have the Associate of Applied Science degrees and technical certificates. And the Associate of Applied Science degree really is where that workforce relationship takes place, because those are career entry programs. They are designed for you to go right into the workforce. The most popular ones, and you heard the mayor say that this was the healthcare capital of the world. Our nursing program, can't tell you how many good students we turn away each class, because we just don't have the capacity to take them all in. We have respiratory therapy, we have vet tech. You'll just find all of those health science programs are doing very well in persistence, in graduation, job placement. In fact, our nursing program has one of the highest passenger rate on the licensure exam, and we're proud of that. But what we are able to do with the AAS degrees is it doesn't take as long to develop a program. So those are where we get to be flexible. In fact, recently, even though it's not for Williamson County, because you heard them talk about manufacturing, if you looked at the other counties we serve, there's still strong manufacturing jobs out there. So just recently, and I have to look it up because I never say the words right, we created an advanced integrated industrial technology program. And that's your hydraulics, your pneumatics, but it's taking a student and helping them to learn how to use the equipment, how to troubleshoot the equipment. We had to invest heavily in this program because the equipment was very specific and costly, but that was responding directly to a workforce need. And so those are the things we're able to do, but where I see we need to do more is actually partnering with industry to help alleviate some of the cost because it gets to be a resource issue. Now going back to where I'm saying we need to do a better job with our partners or our other institutions is Motlow, which is probably 40 minutes away, maybe an hour or so, has a similar program called Mechatronics. And instead of just taking their program and adopting it, we had to go out and create our own. But we've done it, and that is in response to our workforce. Now, I will say before I start talking about Columbia State that there are a lot of initiatives happening right now. In fact, in this building today, at the same time we're meeting, there's a workforce skills summit happening for the region. Several of my colleagues and a lot of community college folks are here in this building as we speak. You see more and more of that. Yes, sir.
What would you define the region?
Middle Tennessee, East Tennessee, West Tennessee.
Okay.
That's how we kind of look at the 3 grand areas in our state. And there's also talk, like when you get into the southern part of Tennessee, the bigger region becomes Alabama and North Carolina and those states bordering. So there are some.
Cross state lines.
Yes. And now, because where we are, we don't really cross those lines. But I think you all understand that. I understand that. We have to think regionally now. And so I wonder what's going to occur with those service area lines, because again, industry doesn't care. One of the things that I'm hoping to create, I'm going to tell you about our new campus, is training that will go across the footprint of a company. Well, they may have, you know, several different states that they have employees in. They could be international. And we say, well, I can only train your employees here in Williamson County. Well, that's not good enough for them. And we've got to be able to branch out and do those kind of things. Okay. Any questions before I talk about Columbia State? Yes, sir.
Yeah, one more.
Sure.
How do you connect back to industry and constantly understand and know what their needs are? What is the mechanism, or what are the mechanisms, or what are the ways that you do that?
Some of the ways are the Associate of Applied Science degrees, the career entry, all have to have advisory boards. And those advisory boards need to be people that are currently working in the field. And they meet routinely for that type of advice.
So you go pull people from existing industry, you go pull people from Nissan or from wherever the case is, and you bring them into this advisory board environment, which is basically done through more of a regional kind of effort.
No, actually, this is by institution. See, that's where we've got to start broadening our thoughts. So my program, for instance, Filter Technology program, it's a technical certificate. I'm required to have an advisory board. We have folks like Wes Craven on there. It's kind of interesting. But because of the person who's the director, they had those relationships. So we have local people, but people in that area, and we say, look at our program and tell us what you think. Is it meeting industry needs? And in that particular case, we were missing a sound course because things are changing in the industry. Our students really needed to have more of an emphasis on sound. So we realigned our curriculum, put that course in so that they would be more competitive.
Am I to assume they jumped at that opportunity to be a part of that process?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Because sometimes people,
sometimes there's difficulty getting existing
that's correct.
involved.
Well, and you'll see that I'm pretty honest and candid. Sometimes educators just like to have a meeting to talk. And I'm a person that really likes action, and so I could see not wanting to come to some of our meetings because you don't really see where it's helping.
Right.
But in the field crew instance, you can see that they really took a look at our curriculum and really helped to make some changes, and we're starting to move in a different direction because of it.
And I'm sorry, one other question. Do you collaborate with the local community to do that, or do you just go straight to existing industry? Is there for example, if Jeremiah was here, we could probably ask him about the existing industry council that Development Authority has. Do you work through those manners as well, or can you do that separately?
I'm gonna say yes and no. For instance, I'm actually meeting with Matt and Jeremiah at 1:30 today to talk about IT, because as you heard him mention, that's a big need. And someone said, I think he did, you know, what kind of jobs are you looking for? When we pull up the National Technology Council, which is a huge part of Nashville, all of those jobs immediately jump to the bachelor level. And we go, well now, we've heard if you had certification and experience, you can still get hired. But when I look at the job descriptions, it says this. So we're working with Jeremiah and Matt to say, who do we need to talk to and connect with? How can you help us get into the doors of some of these people that may not answer our call, so we can get down to the nuts and bolts of what they really need and see if there could be a program. So it's kind of a yes and no. Some relationships we have. What we're not leveraging is our power across the state. You know, we're still in this, I've got 9 counties and I don't cross out of it. So when you say National Technology Council, we go, are we allowed to attend the meeting? Because it's in Nashville. And so we're finally deciding, yeah, we can go there. Because they're interacting. Matt said it was okay because he's working with them. And so it's kind of a little of both. Each community has its own flavor and feel. This is such a progressive county. I think you know that. That's why you're here. We still have very rural counties that still need a lot of convincing to say educational attainment is tied to economic development. It really, really is. You know, and the more education and training that your citizens have, the more likely you'll be able to recruit good jobs into your region. We're still having conversations like that in some of our other counties.
Thank you.
Yes,
So
sir.
I think you've answered the question I was going to ask, which was a follow-up on Randy's. Is there some sort of structural way that you develop to get the right people in the room, the folks who can give usable information to the school system or to your system, and at the same time to have your representatives be the ones who can say, we've heard this information from the right people, we need to work on the following programs in the following time frame. And I guess the answer is sort of.
Sort of. Exactly. The school I came from before had a very strong P16 council. I don't know if you have P16 in Georgia, where it was kind of the K through 12 higher ed and business and industry all together.
Sort of.
Sitting around the table. And that seemed to be the place that you could have some of those conversations. I don't have that in Columbia State. And instead of it being this more, at the school I was with, you had several counties, the county mayors and city managers were all coming together from more than one county, brainstorming, talking through things. It's very segregated at Columbia State. It's Williamson County. It's Murray County. And I literally have to go from place to place to place, developing relationships instead of saying, let's look at it in one big picture. Another push for regional is Matt was talking about his workforce area, if you will. Williamson County is with Nashville and Robinson. The rest of my 8 are with another. So we straddle this line when really we just need to all sit down together and say, what's best for Middle Tennessee? And how do we say, this school can do this and that school can do that? And who's going to make those decisions? That's where we're waiting on the Complete College Tennessee Act to help us with that. So we are sort of getting there. We know what we need to do. We just don't have a mechanism in place to actually do it. And that's what we're working on. Yes.
To build upon the other 2 questions from both Randy and Dr. Hines. Funding, as far as reciprocity, oftentimes it's easy for companies to come in and say, we need workers training the following. And I would think that in some cases they may be willing to pay a certain amount, in some cases they're not. So funding is one part of my question. The other part pertains to you've applied sciences, which means you have applications. You can learn a lot in a classroom, but it doesn't take place for real world work experience. So then do those same companies reciprocate with jobs or with workplace experiences?
What I find it interesting is I didn't say this, is I started at a proprietary school. I stumbled in higher ed, that's a whole nother conversation. And they were so closely aligned to workforce, internships, co-ops. We want our students to graduate and get a job. There are some schools that do that better than others. Columbia State is just now branching into that area again, where we've actually hired a career services person who's gonna go out and align themselves to make sure we can connect those opportunities for students. So that's one piece that I think is coming along sort of. We're coming there. Now, as far as the funding, don't let me forget the point, but a whole other area to the college is economic and workforce development, or our non-credit side. And that is a lot of workforce training. We can do short-term real quick. You need PLC training to update your employees on this new piece of equipment. We can come in, we can do that. It's not a degree, not necessarily any kind of certificate. We're hearing more and more that people want certifications. And so we're getting into that where what our workforce non-credit training is doing is it actually leading you to take certification. Back to the employers, some have tuition reimbursement. And they decide what they're going to pay for, even on the credit side. You know, you want a degree program. We have in the past run cohort programs through a company. If the population is large enough, we'll come to your site, we'll deliver it. We do the same thing on non-credit with contract training, where we can bring it in, the company pays for it. So the funding part, as far as the employer, is really on them, what they decide to do. What we're finding in our more rural areas, I don't want to get into politics, that people aren't ready to work, that the jobs are there, and the people applying for them are not ready for them. And we're saying, well, how can we train them and do some pre-employment and get them, well, who's going to pay for it? Because the people that need the training don't have the funds to do it. So we're trying to figure out how we can address that issue, because that tends to be a larger one, that they are the lower skill jobs, but they're not qualified. They were at the plant, they're no longer there, and they don't know how to use a computer, and it's 2012. Well, we offer computer training, but it's going to cost because we can't do it for free. And so it's this, who pays for that type of conversation that I bet you all are having. I'm sure I'm running out on my time, so I do want to talk about the Columbia State real quick. Could you put that slide back up? What do I need to do?
Just touch the track pad on that.
Okay. Real quickly, when Mayor Anderson stood up and said that we had a really pathetic campus, I wanted to say, you're right, but you didn't have to say it just like that. Kept wondering, where's the love? You're going to talk in love. Columbia State. Columbia State has been offering credit programs in Williamson County since 1971, which I don't even know if you knew that. We've been here a long time. Sharing space, going wherever. And around the early 90s, we moved into the Yates Vocational Center. So somebody's talking about career technical education. Those vocational systems were built in the 60s, and that building looks like it. Big bay doors, because they had all of those programs. And we've been there now, and we grew out of capacity probably in '98. So as that big growth was happening in Williamson County, more and more students were coming to us. Out of the 5 campuses that Columbia